Hi guys, and in today's video I'm going to go through the new time extension quests in PSO2 NGS. Hi guys, and welcome back to another video for PSO2 NGS. So in today's video we're just going to look at the new time extension quests that have been added to PSO2 NGS. So these are accessible at any of the quest counters and they are a new permanent content. Now what you can see here is that the requirements for the quest are quite high. So what you're looking at is you basically want to be aiming for around 3,700 to 4,000 or so battle power. I believe the lower level one, which is the combat patrol, is just over 3,700 battle power requirement, and the higher one is just over 4,000. It's around 4,050, so it is quite hard to actually meet those requirements. What these quests are, they're essentially a time attack quest that takes place in either Retem or Caveris, and that changes every day. So as of recording this, the quest today is in Retem. And basically the way the quest works is you have waves of enemies you've got to defeat. Each enemy that you defeat will add some time to your timer, and the goal is to try and beat the whole quest without running out of time. But you do still get rewards based on your completion rate, so the more enemies you defeat, the better your rewards will be, the higher the rank you'll get. Obviously, if you can complete the quest, you'll get the best rewards. So there are two variants of the quest. There are the combat patrols, which are the easier versions of the quest. So combat patrols will go up to, I believe it's to wave 6. And then there's also extermination quests, which are the harder versions, and they go all the way through to wave 10. And these waves generally get more difficult as they go on. The enemies are predominantly dolls and starless. In fact, when I did it, I think it was almost entirely dolls and starless. And they come at you, as I've said, in waves. Now, one interesting mechanic of this quest is there are these items called photon boost crates that appear every so often. What these do is, each of them is color-coded, and they're also labelled with the ability that they provide. What they do is, you can access them at any time, and they'll just stay on the map until you access them. Once you've accessed them, what will happen is you'll gain a boost based on whatever colour photon boost crate it was that you activated. It will actually say what the boost is when you go near the crate as well, so don't worry about remembering the colours of the crates. So, for example, there are ones that increase your PP recovery. There are ones that prevent you from getting knocked back or launched. There's various different boosts like that. There is one that also boosts your attack speed as well. There's probably others as well that I haven't seen yet. Key to this quest basically is deciding when to use those, because they only affect you for a limited amount of time. So, for example, you don't want to be using the PP recovery one if there's not many enemies around. You want to be doing that when there's tons of enemies, so that you can concentrate more on just being as aggressive as possible and not having to worry about your PP regeneration. So the timing of using those crates is really, really important in this quest. You don't just want to be using them straight away. You want to save them for when you actually need them. Another thing you should know about this quest, particularly for the Retem one, I don't know what the Caveris one will be like because it hasn't been in the game yet. But as of recording, I've done the Retem one. And one central thing with that quest is it's also full of the warp sources. Now, what this quest tends to do is it will spread the spawns out of these waves quite a lot over the map. And the map is actually quite big, and it's only a 4-player quest, so you have a lot of ground to cover. So I would definitely recommend making sure that you use the warp sources as much as possible as well, just to make sure that you're getting around the map as fast as you can. Because quite often what will happen is you'll defeat one spawn and the next spawn might appear on the other side of the map. Now obviously you are doing this with 4 players, so you can spread up. Occasionally you will get it where 2 waves will appear at once, and they could be on opposite sides of the map. So in that case, the ideal thing to do would obviously be to split into 2 teams to take care of them at the same time. So just bear that in mind. Try not to spread your party too thin. You don't want to be all on the same spawn and with another spawn on the other side of the map, because it'll waste a lot of time getting over to it, and you really, really don't have much time to get between these spawns. So that's sort of the main overview of how the quest works. Now, the difference between the combat patrol and the extermination quest, as I mentioned briefly earlier, is that the extermination quest is essentially a harder version of the combat patrol. So in extermination, you have to get through 10 waves instead of 6. It also seems like there does seem to be more enemies in general as well. So as the quest progresses, the later spawns in particular will be more and more hectic as the quest goes on. It is far, far more difficult than the combat patrols. As yet, I haven't managed to beat the extermination quest. I've got to about wave 7 or so in my best runs. But generally just be aware that the extermination quest is more or less the same thing, just a lot more difficult. I don't know if it's because the time's shorter or if there's more enemies, but it just seems genuinely a lot more difficult than the combat patrol. Now, in regards to the rewards, honestly, the rewards don't seem too different for each version. Now, that could be because I haven't managed to beat the extermination version yet, but from what I've seen so far, you seem to get the kind of quest rewards that you expect to see in quests recently. So there's a lot of Verschmelz drops. There's quite a few of the Lucille capsules drop. I have noticed that some of the Spiro capsules do drop as well. So the ones that have just been added in the Crimson Realm, you can actually get some of those capsules from this as well. Apart from that, it's a general fare, so lots of arms refiners, you know, lots of strugments, things like that. So your general sort of rewards that you'll get from quests recently. Now, you can seemingly get the Rare series from this as well. I don't know if Fluke Regard drops. I haven't looked at the full drop list to see if they drop as well, but the Rares definitely do drop here. So if you're still looking for a Rare weapon, this is another way of getting that. Generally, if you're just there to farm drops, I would probably just stick with the combat patrols because they honestly seem a lot simpler. But if you want the challenge though, and you do want something that's actually genuinely quite difficult, then go for the extermination quests. Overall, I think that's about everything I can really cover on this. It's fairly self-explanatory. Essentially, just try and kill everything as fast as you possibly can. Make sure that you're saving those photon boost crates until you actually need them and not just wasting them. Make sure that if you're with your party, making sure that you're splitting out if there's multiple spawns, just so you can focus on 2 spawns at once rather than spending all the time on one of them and then spending a lot of time getting to the second spawn. You just need to make sure that everything you do is efficient considering the timer, because the timer is very, very short for this quest. So just be aware of that. Just try and play as efficient as you can. Save the boost crates when you actually need them, and just play as aggressively as you possibly can. Just try and do as much damage as you can in the shortest amount of time. And you should do reasonably well. Even if you can't beat the extermination quest, I still do feel like the regular combat patrol is actually worth doing. The rewards from that seemed perfectly fine when I was doing it. It seemed very easy to complete, and I seem to quite regularly get Verschmelz, which obviously can turn into growth mint as well. So I do feel like it actually is worth doing. Whether it's going to be something that people can stick with long term, I'm not sure. I do feel like it only has a limited amount of player value overall, because I feel that quite quickly people are probably going to get tired of running the same 2 areas. It is good that it alternates between Retem and Cavaris each day, but I do feel that after a few days people might start getting tired of this. I'm not sure. But at least it's some more permanent content for NGS, which is what it desperately needs, because one of the big problems I have with the game at the moment is that there isn't really much what they call standing content, which is permanent content that's always available. A lot of the game revolves around doing urgent quests and limited quests, which has a big problem when there's no limited quest active. Now, there is one active at the moment. We still have the current one, and that hasn't changed. But when you do have a period where there's no limited quest, you need that standing content there to fill in for it. So I hope it's been relatively useful. I know it's quite a brief video, but I just wanted to give you guys a rough overview of my general impressions of the quest, and just some basic tips for if you're struggling with it at all. So I hope it's been useful. I'll end this one there. If there's any questions, just leave them in the comments below and I will try and answer what I can. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking or subscribing to the channel. We have opened memberships recently as well, so you can always join as a member. We also live stream once a week on Sundays on YouTube, where we normally play PSO or NGS, so feel free to drop by there as well. Yeah, hope it's been useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.